Tonight in 7 News, Donald Trump hospitalised with COVID-19 as the White House cluster grows. Fresh calls for Queenslanders to get tested as traces of coronavirus are detected outside the southeast. Families out and about enjoying the long weekend, providing a desperately needed spending boost. Exclusive, the paperwork bungle which cost Queensland taxpayers $750,000 in police wages. Crowds return to the Gabba to watch the Lions win their cat fight with the Tigers. And exclusive, the results of safety tests on child car restraints and whether price matters.
Live from Brisbane, 7 News with Katrina Blowers.
Good evening. US President Donald Trump is tonight in hospital after undergoing an experimental treatment for COVID-19. It's still unclear how and when the 74-year-old caught the virus, but a cluster has emerged at this White House event. The lack of social distancing, one of many failures now under scrutiny as the president attempts to overcome the illness.
Emerging for the first time, an infected president.
Mr. President, how are you, sir?
Wearing a mask, a brief wave and a thumbs up as the leader of the free world is medevaced from the White House South Lawn. Every second of the unprecedented but well-drilled Mercy Dash beamed out live.
Walter Reed is precisely where the President of the United States should be today.
Marine One making its way to Bethesda, Maryland, about to land at the hospital.
The fevered and fatigued presidential patient arriving 9 minutes later. Marine One touching down at the Walter Reed Military Hospital where he'll spend the next few days.
I think I'm doing very well, but we're going to make sure that things work out. The First Lady is doing very well. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I will never forget it. Thank you.
Top aides rushing to reassure a shell-shocked nation.
He's had mild symptoms, but he is hard at work. We're having to slow him down a little bit.
The White House insisting there'll be no transfer of power, but waiting in the wings if needed. Vice President Mike Pence testing negative.
As it relates to running the free world, I don't think it changes anything. I mean, he's a worker. He's always been a worker.
And he'll work from the hospital's purpose-built presidential office, helped by a cocktail of antibodies, including an experimental drug intended to boost the body's immune response. His children rallying around their father. "You are a warrior and we'll beat this. I love you, Dad," from daughter Ivanka. Son Eric, he will fight through this with the same strength and conviction that he uses to fight for America each and every day. As the sun set on this historic day in Washington, Donald Trump wasn't at home with his family. His wife and First Lady Melania Trump remains in isolation, dealing with mild symptoms. Their son Barron testing negative. And for now at least, it appears that there is a truce in what has so far been a bitterly fought election campaign. Joe Biden testing negative after sharing a stage with him this week, back on the trail, but announcing he'd pulled his party's attack ads.
Sending my prayers for the health and safety of the First Lady and President of the United States after they tested positive for COVID-19.
Outside the White House, support grows.
My heart was saddened. My heart was saddened.
While inside, hard questions are being asked. Why did the president attend a New Jersey fundraiser after his close aide, Hope Hicks, had tested positive that day?
It was deemed safe for the president to go. He socially distanced.
No such precautions taken at this event last Saturday, the Rose Garden reception for the President's Supreme Court pick, now linked to at least 6 positive cases, including former councillor Kellyanne Conway, pictured here with the US Attorney General, and 2 Republican senators. The President's own campaign manager, Bill Stepien, late tonight, joining the list of infected, a deadly virus breaching Washington's walls of power, as the world's most talked about COVID-19 patient now runs the country from hospital.
And Ashley Mullaney is at Walter Reed Hospital just outside Washington with an update on the president's condition.
Good evening, Katrina. We have heard from the President himself here at hospital tonight. He sent out a tweet saying that he is going well, I think. The President's physician sending out a letter too, saying that Donald Trump has started treatment with remdesivir, an antiviral drug, but doesn't require oxygen at this stage. Of course, the campaign calendar has been turned upside down. It is in disarray, and as you'd expect, the President's diary has been cleared for tomorrow. The focus very much here at Walter Reed Hospital for what is now the most serious health threat to face a sitting President in decades. Katrina?
Ashley Mullaney there. Traces of coronavirus have mysteriously appeared in wastewater in regional Queensland. The Chief Health Officer admits she has no idea what it could mean, and there are concerns groups of asymptomatic carriers could be in the community.
There hasn't been a case here since May, but now this central Queensland town is on alert.
Anyone who lives in Rockhampton who has any symptoms at all to please come forward.
The virus detected in sewage at the waste treatment plant, the sample originating from North Rockhampton.
And although we're not quite sure yet what that really means, it alerts us that there could be something going on that we don't know about.
A fever clinic was open today, but even late in the afternoon, it appeared news hadn't travelled.
Just want to increase their testing rate over the next few days just to see if we can get to the bottom of that.
We have no idea how long people can shed virus in their faeces.
3 other positive results were detected in wastewater in Cairns, Airlie Beach and Goodna,
which we would expect.
Those 3 communities are known locations of former cases.
Please, if you have any symptoms, come forward and get tested.
Another day of no new cases. Queenslanders reaped the rewards overnight. Pubs and clubs were noticeably busier.
When I heard everyone could stand up, I was like, say less, I'm going up.
It's good vibes. It's good to be able to stand up, finally.
Motorists are also enjoying more freedom moving between the Sunshine State and northern New South Wales.
We're just going over to Coolangatta to have a coffee.
Getting a bit better, the traffic.
It's an easy one today.
With barely any delays at border checkpoints.
The community has caught up really quickly with the border pass process this time round.
The government enforcing its power to police COVID restrictions, officially extending the public health emergency declaration. While maintaining Queensland is on the front foot, the Deputy Premier was on the back foot, defending a series of tweets poking fun at the US President. Referencing Donald Trump's calls to trial bleach as a COVID cure, Stephen Miles tweeted, "Have you considered intravenous disinfectant?"
The Premier needs to make her irresponsible health minister apologise.
I hope that he apologises. I hope he says to all of the people who believed him, who thought that there were treatments like this out there, I hope he says to them, now that he has the virus himself, that he was wrong.
The Deputy Premier, stubborn or steadfast? Tom Hartley, 7 News.
Large numbers of police patrolled Melbourne's beaches today to prevent a repeat of yesterday's crowds. The lure of the sunshine and warmth was too much for many Melburnians, ignoring COVID rules, dancing and drinking at popular beaches.
I can tell you, I've got 3 young people in my household and they were furious. Just furious when they saw those scenes.
It's a bit of an insult to everyone who's done it tough for months and months and months across the state.
Fines were handed out, but police won't say how many. Victoria recorded 8 new COVID-19 cases today and 3 more deaths. With the school holidays nearing a close, Southeast families were on the move today, making the most of the long weekend. Thousands of visitors packed Gold Coast hotels, theme parks and attractions, and they're expected to spend up big until Monday.
From the coastline to the suburbs, the Gold Coast was pumping with people, a sight traders were overwhelmed to see.
Great venue, great people, great times. What more could you want?
Burleigh Pavilion packed inside and out, pub goers no longer forced to sit. To a long weekend with relaxed restrictions.
We're loving it. It's such a different vibe, honestly. It's so much better.
The vibe on the M1 wasn't ideal. Drivers stuck in long delays. But with weather like this, it was worth the wait.
You can get a really good suntan.
Tallabudra Creek was covered in tents as families settled in for the day.
We're just from Brisbane. It's good. It's, the weather's good.
Thrills were high at the theme parks. There was barely a car park in sight. And inland at Robina, a mini show tired out the kids and gave mum and dad's wallets a workout.
There goes their allowance for the next 3 months.
Organisers say the idea of this event is to attract more people out here to the suburbs to spend up big at local cafes and shopping centres too.
It'll stimulate the economy, and it also helps us, of course, because we've been out of work for many, many months.
Foodies filled cafes, restaurants and clubs across the city. And after lunch, this was the place to be.
It's pretty magical.
Kind of like relaxes you.
They might just never leave. On the Gold Coast, Crystal Etherington, 7 News.
The Morrison government is expected to announce a record investment into aged care in Tuesday's budget as it attempts to fix the broken sector. 7 News understands tens of thousands of additional home care packages will also be funded as elderly Australians delay entering nursing homes due to COVID-19.
Malcolm Nash's 93-year-old father, Walter, began to deteriorate this year.
He became incontinent. He was falling over a lot, he wouldn't wash, he wouldn't change his clothes.
Overwhelmed, he applied for a home care package from the federal government. After several assessments and 40 phone calls later, he was put on a waiting list.
I was trying to get him to look after himself. I was trying to keep him clean. I was trying to keep him fed. I was trying to keep him alive. And I felt inadequate.
Walter Nash died on September the 1st. He never got home care.
I have failed my father. And our relationship wasn't as close as it should have been at the time when it should have been closest.
10,500 Australians died last financial year waiting for home care. Fixing the system was the first recommendation of the Royal Commission's interim report.
And here we are, 12 months later, still over 100,000 older Australians waiting for home care.
We have invested more into home care packages than any government in recent times.
And there'll be more in next week's budget. 7 News understands the federal government will announce tens of thousands of additional home care packages to lift the burden on those most vulnerable. It'll be part of what's being described as a record investment in aged care, a step into reforming one of the most broken sectors in the country. Jennifer Beshwati, 7 News.
The Organised Crime Squad has set up a new strike force to investigate explosive allegations of domestic violence and drug use against South Sydney Rabbitohs player Sam Burgess. Head coach Wayne Bennett today denied the club covered up the alleged incidents.
It wasn't known widely within the club because I'd been here since the end of 18 and I knew nothing about it.
Sam Burgess denies all claims. Queensland Police have admitted losing $750,000 of taxpayer funds in an embarrassing paperwork bungle. 7 News can reveal officers failed to send bills to the Woodford Folk Festival after police were used as security, and it went on for 4 years.
On the beat at the Woodford Folk Festival, but not on the taxpayer bill for event organisers.
Yeah, it is a lot of money.
Police confessing to losing almost $750,000.
Any time that the community does not receive good public value for the funding that's provided to provide a safe community is a concern.
For 4 years from 2015, taxpayers paid for up to 10 extra police officers to work as security at the festival, each supposed to cost up to $285 an hour. As 7 News revealed last year, Woodford was supposed to be billed for the help, which included vehicles and horses.
It's the follow-up reimbursement where there's been a failure.
Now blaming a misunderstanding and maladministration.
Poor administration, poor processes, a lack of governance.
This is typical of the culture of waste that's been developed under the Labor government.
Police say they can't recover the funds due to the misunderstanding, but the officer responsible has been disciplined, promising it won't happen again because
we've got a prepaid process.
A change of tune. Patrick Lyons, 7 News.
Law and order was the priority today on the hustings, with the government announcing $77 million for new police equipment, whereas the LNP has promised a crackdown on knife crime, saying rates were spiralling upward of 40% in some areas.
The senseless knife crime must stop.
A proposal to improve police search powers is backed by Brett and Belinda Beasley, whose 17-year-old son Jack was killed in a knife attack on the Gold Coast just before Christmas.
We don't want any other family to go through this.
Meanwhile, Health Minister Stephen Miles also announced $5 million to introduce PET scan equipment specialising in cancer, brain and thyroid diagnosis at Queensland Children's Hospital. No need for cardboard cutouts or canned applause. A return to near normal for footy fans at the Gabba, overshadowed by the Lions' thrilling win over Richmond. The underdogs beating the Tigers by 15 points, with fans the guinea pigs ahead of a COVID-safe grand final.
A history-making moment in history-making times. Celebrations challenging.
I was a bit happy I forgot that we can't hug our partners.
This was the goal that broke the Tigers' hoodoo and an 11-year finals drought.
McCluggage kicks them into a prelim. There's a real no-ego policy. You know, we just come in, we do our work.
Lions fans did theirs, on their feet and unleashing a thunderous victory roar.
Listen to this.
It was so loud, you could hardly hear the whistle.
22,000 packing the Gabba, only fans of the favourites, including Ash Barty, going home disappointed.
A lot of people probably thought that we had a monkey on our back about finals, but I didn't actually see it that way.
One win away from the grand final, but there's an even bigger prize at stake.
Brisbane is a great litmus test for a lot of people around the world.
Authorities overall pleased with the second largest gathering since the pandemic began.
I haven't been told any concerns. I have been told that the Lions won, which was excellent news.
Gabba management will continue tweaking and improving its COVID-safe plan, but say seating arrangements for the grand final are likely to be similar to what fans experienced last night.
The gaps are very purposely put there at the moment, just as we slowly increase the number of patrons that we get in the venue.
Do we dare to dream? Queenslanders cheering on a Queensland team in the first Queensland Grand Final. Rosanna Kingson, 7 News.
With the long weekend upon us, let's check the coastal weather with Bertie.
Hey, thanks for that, Katrina. Hello, everybody, down here on Surfers Paradise Beach. That swell, it's gorgeous. It's only about a metre at the moment, and it's going to kick around a bit. We've still got hundreds of people on the beach here. Flags are down, but they're just sitting down and enjoying the start of this long weekend. It is absolutely glorious, I can assure you. Tomorrow looking sensational. Let's take a look at today's temperatures, where it kicked to a high of around 25, 26 coastal, 28 in the city, and 29 degrees for Ipswich. And I'll be back a little bit later with your full long weekend weather details. Katrina?
Very jealous. Thanks, Bertie. Well, more Queenslanders will get help to buy their first home as the government extends its scheme to guarantee loans with just a 5% deposit. Fears COVID could see a killer released from prison. Bathroom blast off. NASA launches a toilet into space. And before weather, safety checks on child car restraints. Does price matter? The surprising results.
Win the ultimate AFL Grand Final experience. 7 News is giving you the chance to win a double pass to the AFL Grand Final, plus 2 nights accommodation, a dining experience and spending money. Be watching 7 News next week for the nightly code word for your chance to win.
The federal government is making it easier for first home buyers to enter the market, extending its loan deposit scheme by an extra 10,000 places. It means more Australians will be able to get a mortgage with just a 5% deposit. But today's announcement only applies to new homes up to $850,000. It was a shocking murder that sparked an international manhunt. Now there are fears the man accused of killing Sydney woman Cecilia Haddad will be freed from his Brazilian prison cell because of COVID.
As children, they were inseparable growing up in Brazil. And many years later, when Cecilia Haddad moved to Australia, her bond with her brother João was as strong as ever, until the 38-year-old mining executive was brutally murdered, allegedly by her jealous ex-lover, Mario Santoro.
I used to speak to Cecilia every day. We were very close. My son was about to be born. He was born 5 days before my sister was killed.
João's boy is now 2.5.
She used to post photos of the things she was buying for him. All the presents are here with us. My son knows Aunt Cissa, my sister's nickname. He sees her pictures, knows who she is, and the presents that came from her.
Now João fears Santoro could be released from one of Brazil's most dangerous jails. The country has been hit hard by coronavirus, recording almost 5 million cases. Santoro has tried to use the pandemic to get out of jail. Although it's unlikely to happen, the court is considering his application.
Besides the never-ending mourning, we have a long way ahead of us to find justice. We cannot predict how long it will take.
As Cecilia's family waits for justice, they don't want her memory to be forgotten.
Cecilia's family will be forever grateful for the tireless work New South Wales Police did on the case. But ultimately, the brief of evidence will be tested in Brazil's federal court. Ashley Hansen, 7 News.
Convicted rapist and disgraced film producer Harvey Weinstein is facing 6 new charges of sexual assault. They involve 2 victims of alleged incidents which occurred in Beverly Hills more than 10 years ago. Weinstein now faces a total of 11 sexual assault charges in Los Angeles. The former Hollywood mogul is currently serving 23 years in a New York prison for attacks on 2 women. LA prosecutors have begun extradition proceedings. A $23 million experimental toilet has been blasted into space. A NASA rocket is delivering the special cargo to the International Space Station. The new toilet is designed to better suit women and will accompany astronauts on future missions to the moon. The successful launch was Take 2. An earlier one had to be aborted. It wasn't the only stoppage. A SpaceX rocket launch was scrubbed just 2 seconds before takeoff. Our southern neighbours are setting their clocks forward tonight with daylight saving back on, the renewed debate to introduce it in Queensland. The wedding industry booms as couples rush to lock in their postponed nuptials. How New Brisbane research could help Queenslanders suffering hearing loss. And after sport, the Brisbane office boasting Maxwell Smart's favourite gadget.
Fancy a drive to Redcliffe? The first bridge opened 85 years ago this weekend. Flashback 7 News, Sunday at 6.
There are renewed calls for daylight saving to be introduced in Queensland as the rest of the country prepares to wind their clocks forward an hour from tomorrow. A petition has been launched 4 weeks out from the election in an effort to get at least one major party to change its stance. Daylight saving for southeast Queensland organisers say it would reignite our economy following the pandemic. But both the LNP and Labor are still refusing to budge. A man has serious injuries after being trapped by a truck rollover southeast of Chinchilla. It took over an hour to free the driver, believed to be in his 40s. He lost control of the vehicle before crashing into a tree. He was then airlifted to Toowoomba Hospital, where he's being treated for leg and upper body injuries. COVID-19 has sparked a surprise boom in the wedding industry, with many couples now rushing to lock in their postponed nuptials. Some venues are already fully booked for 2021, with weekday ceremonies and micro weddings becoming the norm.
Finding the dream gown much easier than finding a venue.
Everything's booked out for the rest of next year.
Bride-to-be Megan Dobking opting for a wedding at her parents' house instead.
Then we could pick a date that was suitable rather than having to have the scraps left over from everyone who's postponed.
A common problem for any couple wanting to tie the knot.
We've seen a big boom in weddings, people booking for later this year and very much into 2021.
The Carlisle Hotel has 70 weddings already confirmed for next year, now taking bookings for 2022.
We've had bookings galore, people that can't get married in New South Wales, can't get married in Greece, can't get married in New York.
Forcing couples to break tradition.
Next year is just all over the place with postponed bookings, with new bookings, with midweek. Nothing's really off the cards.
COVID-19 has also made couples rethink weddings entirely, with extravagant guest lists a thing of the past. Instead, micro-weddings the preference, regardless of restrictions easing.
In the end of the day,
people wanted to celebrate the love and we made it happen.
I think it's really brought it back to what it's all about.
Keeping something old and something new. Brittany Lane, 7 News.
Taking a popular pain medication during pregnancy may not be as harmless as thought. A new study suggests a link between paracetamol and ADHD in children. 4 in 5 women report using paracetamol while pregnant. Experts behind the research are urging caution, calling on the government to update their health advice. Hearing aid technology has come a long way in recent decades, but Australians are still putting them off. A Brisbane company hopes to change that based on research into the way our ears and brains process sound.
A curator at a museum, a lecturer to university students, Eleanor Roble relies on being able to communicate clearly.
And it's a great strain saying to people, would you talk a little louder? Please.
But despite struggling to hear for several years, Eleanor resisted buying hearing aids until now.
I wanted really good technology and I've got it.
Hearing aid manufacturer Oticon Australia discovered our brains need access to the full sound scene rather than the traditional approach of drowning out background noise. And they used that research to come up with a new device.
Our ears bring the sounds into our brain, but it's the brain that does the work of making sense of that sound.
If I don't want to hear you, I can turn them down. It's just like having a radio, a wireless in your ears.
Just 1 in 5 Australians who need a hearing aid actually use one. Experts say often because of a negative past experience.
But the reality is these days, hearing aids are a lot smaller, the technology's advanced significantly.
And they can make a major difference. Just ask Eleanor.
I've got an antique long grandfather clock, and since I've had the hearing aids in, the first day, my God, it was ticking. I could hear it, and I haven't heard it for years.
Laura Dimmick, 7 News.
Well, how far would you go to see a cherished loved one? The story of the little boy who walked across countries to give his gran a hug. Crews forced to cut their way in to fight a factory blaze, and more delays in the next instalment of Bond, James Bond. A fire in a factory in Slacks Creek is being treated as suspicious by investigators. Emergency crews were called to Cronulla Court just after 1 o'clock this morning. Firefighters were forced to cut their way inside through the front roller door.
We're able to contain the fire to the rear of the premises and eventually extinguish it. There's significant damage to both factories. There's no intermittent wall, so the fire is spread through both factories.
The fire began in the back of the building. The cause is yet to be determined. Let's check Fuelcast now, and don't delay. Fill up the tank if you spot cheap fuel, as it won't last long. The average price of unleaded in Brisbane is $1.13, while on the Gold Coast it's $1.09. A Brisbane man is climbing the elevation equivalent of Mount Everest in less than 24 hours to raise money for mental health. Extreme endurance athlete Jamie Hunter is using Mount Cootha to reach 105 kilometres, climbing the hill 3 times per hour.
I've done some pretty crazy things, but I have to say this is probably the craziest. You know, who wants to climb a hill in Cootha repeatedly for like 17 hours?
Good on him. The funds raised will go to Human Connection Project. Many of us have been separated from loved ones this year, but one boy has gone to extraordinary lengths to see his granny. Romeo Cox walked almost 3,000 kilometres through several countries, and after a fortnight in quarantine is now just 1 sleep away from giving his gran the biggest hug ever.
When Romeo Cox hatched a secret lockdown plan to walk from Sicily to London for a reunion with his gran, Mum and Dad needed persuading.
I had to convince them by eating all my vegetables, doing good and lots of homework.
They eventually caved, so in July, the 10-year-old and his dad, Phil, set off on an epic adventure.
Hit the road, Jack,
and don't come back no more.
Walking, cycling and sleeping under the stars, in Tuscany they picked up Pedro, the donkey.
So we could put all our bags on it and walk just like medieval times. We were perfectly fine with this donkey until the last 2 days with it, because it would just stop. Go, They went on strike, basically.
2,800 kilometres all up, crossing into Switzerland, trekking through France, before finally sailing to the UK, arriving in London.
How big will the hug be that you give your granny?
Well, it'll be the biggest hug almost I've ever given someone.
Hugging Gran wasn't the only motivation. When Romeo moved to Sicily 2 years ago, he was taught Italian by some local refugee kids. He's now raising money to help those who helped him.
I'm proud of him. As adults, we can often learn quite a lot from just the simplicity and directness of children.
In London, Sarah Greenhalgh, 7 News.
The release of the latest James Bond movie has been delayed again due to the pandemic. The 25th film of the franchise, No Time to Die, was originally scheduled for April. It was then moved to November and will now open next April. The producers say they want the world to be able to watch the movie in theatres. Coming up, would you believe a Brisbane officer's clever tribute to TV sitcom Get Smart? And protecting a precious cargo, the latest advice on child car restraints, and it might surprise you. Well, tough to keep the crowd in their seats last night, Pat.
Yes, Katrina, it was fantastic. Hello, everyone. Ahead, our women's cricketers in a ruthless mood. All the wash-up from that brilliant Lions win that had the Gabba rocking. And how costly will this tackle be as the Panthers chase their NRL fairy tale?
Tomorrow on Weekender, high tea in the city, fit for a little lady.
Tea for two and two for tea.
Tomorrow, 5:30 on 7.
The Lions have roared into premiership favouritism, now just one win away from the grand final after a history-making night at the Gabba. In the match of the season, Brisbane tamed the Tigers, out-muscling them in their backyard for the first time in 16 years.
In a season of uncharted territory, the Lions are on the map.
McCluggage kicks him into a prelim.
That was the toughest game I've ever played in. Brisbane's first preliminary final since 2004, ignited by the last line to tame the Tigers 11 years ago.
What a start that is for Richmond, for the Lions and Rich.
Commentators weren't the only ones stunned. Brisbane written off after 15 straight maulings.
Charlie! Oh, yes!
We didn't really think about it too much. Within our four walls, we're pretty comfortable with those situations, and we don't listen to too much of the experts out there.
In the battle of the big cats, rattling cages worked.
I'm not touching the ball that much in the wing, so if I can get involved in a few scruffles and a little bit of ruffling the feathers, that's a win for me.
And for the whole team, Richmond out-muscled and outplayed.
Closed down by Andrews.
As the temperamental Tigers gave away a double 50-metre penalty, the Brownlow favourite more than made up for 0 touches in the first quarter.
It's a good kick. Jeez. It's got everything and some.
It was a big moment. No doubt about that.
Dusty, rusty, but still dangerous as the Tigers stalked a final term comeback. But even with star power in the stands, there was no Barty party, just a Gabba gala.
Just really relieving that we're able to come out and execute our game plan properly for 4 quarters, and when Richmond really challenged us with momentum, we were able to stop that.
Charlie's going to get a hat-trick.
For us to come out and do that, it gives us massive belief for what we can do. They'll enjoy a week off. The back-to-back premiers now prepare for the winner of the Saints Bulldogs, and Kilda lead deep into the first game of sudden death Saturday. Ben Davis, 7 News.
Panthers tear away. Viliama Kikau will need to beat a dangerous throw charge to play in the preliminary final. Penrith's pulsating 29-28 win over the Premiers, their 16th straight victory, was tempered by Kikau's indiscretion.
Now 16 in a row and counting if they didn't believe it before. This young team of mostly local juniors know it now.
With this group of boys, it's unbelievable, and just hoping we can keep riding the wave now.
They admitted being overawed, and the Roosters led 10-0, but as they've done since childhood, Jerome Luai and Nathan Cleary started cutting the defence to shreds.
Luai's kick, they're there again!
Cleary, the coach's son, still just 22, already the best halfback in the game, and getting better all the time.
They've been calling him the Iceman all year, and he's delivered again.
Penrith are a win away from their first grand final since their 2003 title, to stop the bleeding and fight back from 28-10 to 1 point renewed Roosters' confidence. Now they welcome the chance to do the three-peat the hard way.
This is what the final's about. We'll find out in 3 weeks' time who's the best.
Jared Waerea-Hargreaves avoided suspension, but Billy Kickow was charged with the dangerous throw. He's out until the grand final if he loses at the judiciary.
The problem with Kicks is he's just so big and it's almost he gets discriminated against. Everything he does looks worse.
Sam Burgess was in the Bunnies' bubble until yesterday, but Wayne Bennett denies the scandal will derail the Rabbitohs.
It's distant from us. It's got nothing to do with us.
They host the Knights in tomorrow's knockout final. Few give Newcastle a chance, but Kalen Ponga was born for this stage.
We're not just happy with just being in the first round of the finals and then getting knocked out. We want to go in and go pretty deep.
Matt Carmichael, 7 News.
The Viking clap did little to scare the Sharks away this evening in Canberra with a raucous home. Sharks scored again, but the wonder from Wigan, George Williams, turned the match on its head with a runaway try just in the shadows of half-time. Earlier, Olympic gold medalist Elliot Green set the Broncos women on their heels as the Warriors took an 8-0 lead. Enter Tamika Upton. In just her 4th game, she scored a hat-trick in a twinkling and completely turned the tide of this match. Finally, the Red Hill faithful have something to cheer about.
Tamika Upton is a superstar of this competition.
A round 1 statement from the Broncos as they chase a title three-peat. The all-conquering Australian women's cricket team is closer to another record. A clean sweep in the Rose Bowl series against New Zealand will put the Aussies on 21 straight wins alongside the men's world standard. They took game 1 today with ease. The pursuit of yet another milestone could barely have started better for this champion side. The second scalp, though, was extra special.
So Sutherland picks up her first wicket. The skipper stuck with her.
Ash Gardner was the catcher for 3 of the first 4 wickets, but in the process damaged a finger and couldn't bat. Maddie Green bucked the trend with a rapid-fire 35, but 180 was never enough. The Kiwis did little wrong in the field.
Oh, that is an outstanding catch from Susie Bates.
But Australia's top order is relentless. Skipper Lanning was the star with 62 from 70 as the world's top team cruised home with 16 overs to spare. At Roland Garros, Rafa Nadal's charging towards a record-equaling 20th Grand Slam. It took him just 95 minutes to beat Italian Stefano Travaglia and reach the 4th round.
I need to keep going and hope to keep improving a little bit every single day.
2015 champion Stan Wawrinka lost to world number 239 Hugo Gaston. And while world number 1 Ash Barty enjoyed herself at the Gabba, the number 2 Simona Halep is cruising through the women's draw. The Lakers are 2 wins from claiming the NBA title after again dominating Miami. LeBron James put on 33 points, Anthony Davis 32.
Davis for the slam.
Looking forward to watching the film once again, seeing ways we can be better, because we can be.
LA lead the series 2-0. Champion trainer Chris Waller's faced with a mouth-watering prospect. Does he target the Caulfield Melbourne Cup double or the Cox Plate with his superstar Very Elegant? She won a thrilling Turnbull Stakes this afternoon.
Finch, Very Elegant, Toffee, Tongue, Dallasan between them. It's a head bob of the mare.
Group 1 racing in Sydney too, highlighted by the $1 Million Epsom and another outstanding mare.
Probabile takes the lead from her old sparring partner Funstar, and Probabile will be Funstar.
In the Premier, Everest markets were severely shaken. Nature Strip disappointed, but the Anthony Cummins flyer Libertini will now surely earn a start. And that is our sport.
Thank you, Pat. Well, it was made famous in the 60s TV show Get Smart, and now a Brisbane office has its very own Cone of Silence. The quirky prop was installed at the James Street headquarters for Place estate agents. It'll come in handy for those private negotiations, but there's just one problem.
So again, like the one from the series, it doesn't work.
I am deeply concerned about the conference room.
Missed it by that much. Well, why new doesn't always mean safer when it comes to child car seats. We have the exclusive and surprising research results.
And we are into day 1 of the long weekend. Perfect day 2. Those details after the break.
Jobs, jobs and more jobs. The companies that are hiring now.
Those jobs are available.
The industry's needing workers and where you should be looking to future-proof your career.
We need staff now that we can train.
Plus, calling all casuals. The businesses wanting Christmas workers. 7 News, Monday.
Today's main stories now. US President Donald Trump remains hospitalised, receiving experimental treatment for COVID-19. Rockhampton remains on alert tonight after traces of coronavirus have mysteriously appeared in wastewater. And Queenslanders are expected to spend big this long weekend, making the most of eased restrictions. The cost of new car seats can burn a hole in parents' pockets, particularly when they have more than one child. But new research shows second-hand is not necessarily second best, as older seats hold up under pressure.
Road accidents are the biggest killer of children worldwide. So it makes sense parents only want the best when it comes to car seats.
There's no second chances with car seats.
Linda Cruz has 2 young boys, and after forking out for restraints in both her car and her husband's, funds were low, and the grandparents' car still needed to be fitted.
They actually came from my sister. My parents essentially have my niece and nephew's car seats.
That's fine, according to new research. Transurban's Road Safety Centre recently conducted 80 crash test simulations of old and new car seats and found both types did the job, something many parents will appreciate in this current financial climate.
If people have an older restraint and money is tight, and there's no alternative, we just want to assure them that it is okay.
But it's not just a case of saying any old car seat will do. Parents need to check its history, ensure all the parts are there and it's installed properly.
The most important question to ask is, has it been involved in a car crash? And if it has, just give it a miss.
Alison Sandy, 7 News.
Weather and all the coastal information now. Here's Paul.
Hey, Katrina, I hope you're keeping well up there on the desk in Brisbane, because down here on the Gold Coast, everybody, we are live at Surfers Paradise. It is stunning. Day 1 of the long weekend was so good. Tomorrow, day 2 is looking even better. We're going to have east-northeasterly breezes. Temperatures will be up there in the mid to high 20s, looking absolutely stunning. Let's take a look at today's temperatures, where it kicked into at around 25, 26 coastal regions, 28 degrees the high for Logan, and in the city, Ipswich was the warmest, and they felt 29. To the charts now. Thank goodness we're in Queensland. Mostly clear skies across our Sunshine State. However, take a look across the central interior. A pretty heavy trough system moving through from WA into South Australia. It's going to bring some pretty good downpours to the central regions of the country over the next 48 to 72 hours, the next 3 days. That cold front moving into the southern bight is going to push in towards Victoria, bringing another round of cool weather as we move in towards the next 2 days as well, particularly for Melbourne. So take a look around the country now. Clear skies for Sydney, 27. Also for Canberra, 8 to 26. Wet for Melbourne, 17 to 28 degrees. And also for Adelaide, cooler top of only 19. Back to the Sunshine State now. The tropics, tops of 29 degrees for Cairns and also for Townsville, 27 for Mackay. Similar further south, 28 degrees for Rockhampton, down to about 18 degrees tonight. Have a look at Longreach. Good evening to everybody out there. Highs of 33. And also further south around Gympie, 14 to 27, 12 to 23 for Toowoomba. Back home, great Sunday. We're looking pretty good there, actually. Tops of 26 degrees for Logan, 24 to 26 on the Gold Coast, particularly around Robina and Nerang. Getting up to 25 at Redcliffe, Ipswich, 12 to 28. Boating conditions, east-northeasterly winds, 15 knots. The bay, not too bad, a little bit choppy in the exposed waters for those in smaller craft under 5 metres. Seas 1 metre, looking stunning in the river zone. In the city, 17 to 26, plenty of sunshine, about a little bit of cloud here and there, but looking ahead, remaining fairly dry. Top of 27 Monday, 16 to 28 on Tuesday. Similar for Ipswich, warming up to 31 degrees on Tuesday, down to 12 overnight. Gold Coast, dry, 15 to 25 Monday, top of 25 also Tuesday and Wednesday. Sunshine Coast, slight chance of a shower grazing the coast. Can't see a lot in that though. Tops of 25 to 26 for the next week. Let's take a look at the waterways if you're stepping outside tomorrow.
Surfers tomorrow hit the northeastern pockets. That'll be the go. Northeasterly breezes forecast to move through. 12 knots maximum. That means for those on the beaches, yep, gear up. It's looking pretty good. Not a lot of swell though. Of course, stay between the flags for the swimmers. Water temp just over a smidgen of 21 degrees. Boating conditions ideal for those in larger craft to head offshore. Smaller craft, there's going to be that little bit of wind chop on the exposed water, so be aware. Moreton Bay this morning looking gorgeous. Have a look at that, crossing the bay, heading over to the Coffee Rock of Bulwer Rex with a kingfisher being in numbers. Some beautiful fish there. Have a look at that. Kaylin getting hooked up. Been some nice size flathead and mud crabs caught in the estuaries. Water's warming up. Thank you, Ray Patterson. And also for those on Taylor. Well, the headlands definitely worthwhile. And also the outside points of Noosa National and Burleigh Heads.
And that's all from us this Saturday. Thanks for your company. We'll have updates throughout the evening. But for now, from all the team, have a good night.